We have changed our format a little bit, and we're, uh, if you can believe it or not, in a much more aggressive posture, I think, and we'll explain why. Um, we've been trying to be a little bit more detached in the past as analysts, but it seems like uh, what's really necessary now. We've seen the conflict go on between uh, two sides that really good and evil is not really a misplaced description of him. And we're more willing to take our place and be a little bit less concerned about being judged as biased. My name is Mikhail Voin, and this is my colleague, George Michaelopoulos. You may recall him from Monomachos fame. And we're here to hopefully elucidate things and engage really in some polemics about the state of the world and how things are going. Um, I feel strange just stating it that way, and I guess it's because we've been taught to be sheep. You know, it's. I mean, I'm an attorney, retired attorney, and I've got a black belt in Kempo, and I still feel strange about talking about polemics in a political discussion. It was very strange. And that's how talked down to, I guess, we feel, or uh, in the West. But the fact is that our leadership here is totally mismanaging everything. We came from patriarchy, and we said goodbye to that a long time ago, and all the social pathologies that come from saying goodbye to that are completely manifest in our society. And so the whole society is just going adrift at this point. Um, and so I thought, and the mass media is a serious problem in all this because it's the vehicle of ideological domination,
Oh, yeah.
uh, and it has everybody. When I was growing up, and I'm sure this is the same for you, George, we would go in and see the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite, and that's the
Oh,
way
yeah,
it
I
was.
remember that.
Yeah, yeah, and we didn't realize that we were being indoctrinated just by that. That was just one particular take on the world, and it was the take of the liberal elite in the United
Mhm.
States. We're Christians. George and I are both Orthodox Christians, and we hold the age-old traditional Christian values. We're not we don't try to come across as old fogies or anything like that. But still, I mean, in the face of what we see today, um, we like to keep a traditional posture because there's so much really awful stuff that we see, not just in terms of the multicultural problems that have come up here and in Europe, but feminism, abortion, homosexuality, transgenderism, and the mutilation of children, trying to
Yeah.
make one
Yeah.
sex equal another. Uh, you have to at some point stand up and say, no, no, we're not going to do this, and the reason we're not going to do this isn't because it's unfashionable or we're not ready for it yet. It's because we're Christians and we don't do that kind of thing.
Amen.
Yes. And so we kind of, as Christians, do have a code of sorts, and I think most everybody at some um level understands that we have a code that goes against all this stuff. Sometimes we may feel embarrassed to talk about it. It's the same. It's the same thing that comes up whenever, say, you're in the workplace and somebody starts going on about pronouns, and something deep inside of you says, "Why am I supposed to be talking like this? Why am I supposed to be encouraging somebody in their delusions about their perversions.
Yeah.
And something deep, like St. Paul said in the New Testament about there is actually a natural morality that we all have,
Right.
when we know better than certain things. Um, and so on the international front, we have a war going on uh, right now, and I'll go ahead and I'll mention this quote from Patriarch Kirill, and then I'll turn it over to you for your
Sure.
thoughts on all this for a few minutes. Um, we have this international war in Ukraine now
Uh-huh.
between the parties really are Russia and NATO.
Mhm.
Ukraine was defeated in about a month or 3 weeks. Early on, they went to the bargaining table and they initialed off on a capitulation. And
Mhm.
the
Under very
United,
favorable terms, by the way, very favorable terms.
yeah, yeah. I mean, Russia's been fairly generous about things all along. Too generous, in my humble opinion. The Russian instruction, but we'll get to that later on. That may be coming to an end. Uh, but in any case, Boris Johnson in the UK came in and said, "No, we can't do that. We'll support you with everything I had." Since then, it's been a NATO endeavor, NATO including the United States,
Sure.
pouring much weaponry as possible in, and just using Ukrainians as cannon fodder, basically. And this goes by uh, an old plan that George Soros had from the
Mhm.
1990s that he wrote about, using Eastern Europeans as cannon fodder because theoretically his opinion was that they wouldn't be so aghast at the level of casualties that would be necessary
Mhm.
in order to take down a country like Russia. Uh,
Yeah, absolutely.
and yeah,
It's
go ahead.
it's it's evil. If that's not racism, I don't know what is. I
Yeah,
mean, let's
yeah,
let's use these Eastern Slavs to slaughter each other.
yeah, yeah. It's just evil, pure evil. And I hope and I believe that after the dust settles from all of this, that the Eastern Slavs, whether they're weird, Russian, Belarusian, Ukrainian, whatever, never forget and never forgive the Western elites for
I
leading millions into,
yeah,
slaughter. There's,
yeah.
not that anybody's going to be asking for forgiveness. The Victoria Newlands of the world, their moral compass does not exist. They're not really. Um, if they have a moral compass, it does not resemble anything that the Christians or decent people
Well,
recognize as a moral compass.
I mean, we could say, well, George Soros, an atheist, Jewish, doesn't like non-Jews, probably. But then there's Zbigniew Brzezinski, the late Zbigniew Brzezinski, Polish Catholic,
Yeah,
and he was a major driver in this. You know,
yeah,
it was his idea to break up the Russian Federation into 5 or 7 different regions or polities,
yeah,
and I'm not going to say this is a Talmudic thing, although it is Talmudic in that in the Talmud it says, "Use the Gentiles to fight each other." Um, but 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 that's just a a Darwinian thing. I'm not a Darwinist, by the way, but those who believe in evolution, material evolution, see no reason that people can't commit genocide as long as we're not getting genocided. You know, um,
yeah,
so
yeah,
and the West still has to view the Russians as the other. They just do, and I'm sure there are sociological reasons for it. Ultimately, it's a spiritual warfare. But Ephesians 6:12, for we wrestle not against power. powers, against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, uh, uh, principalities and archons and powers in high places, and I
Mhm.
mangled that, but you know what it
Yeah, I
is.
know it's fine. Okay.
So we are engaged in war physically, but there's a war going on in the spiritual realm too, and it's bleeding over into us. And I think
Yes.
our hatreds are bleeding over into them too. You know,
Yes.
in the book of Daniel, Daniel fasted for 21 days to to pray so that the archangel Michael could come save him. And when he did show up, he said, "What took you so long?" He says, "You don't know. I was fighting the Prince of Persia all this time." The Prince of Persia being one of the demigods
Mm.
uh, in the angels in charge of the Persian Empire at the time. And so but because Daniel prayed, I guess it gave Michael strength to overcome the Prince of Persia.
Mm.
Anyway, we always got to keep that in mind.
Wow, that's interesting. I'll have to look into that more. Uh, Daniel's a fascinating
Yeah.
book and character. Just again,
Mhm.
there's so much stuff that's extra stuff that you can find, on Daniel that you won't necessarily find in the KJV uh, as well. But so the West decided they were going to use Ukraine as a battering ram.
Mhm.
Uh, and there's offers out to Georgia at first, and Russia kind of put the kibosh on that in order to
Mhm.
get it into NATO, and then Ukraine, and finally that stirred up enough that uh, Russia went into the, the Donbass. And in 2024, after the SMO was already well underway, in March of 2024, in a statement before the World Russian People's Council, uh, Patriarch Kirill, the patriarch of the Russian Orthodox Church,
Mhm.
it's interesting what his title is Kirill, Patriarch of Moscow and of all Rus, which
Belarus.
sometimes is uh, translated as of all the Russias or of
Mhm.
all Russia. If you look at the elder documents,
Right.
you think, what are all the Russias? And a historian will say, well, the three of them, and one of them is
Mhm.
at war, right? Is in the middle of a war right now.
Yeah.
Little Russia, called Ukraine. Um, but from the spiritual, I'm quoting right now, from the spiritual and moral point of view, the special military operation is a holy war in which Russia and its people are defending the single spiritual space of Holy Russia, fulfilling the mission of restrainer, protecting the world from the onslaught of globalism and the victory of the West, which has fallen into Satanism, unquote. And that caught a little bit of attention at the time that he said it.
Mhm.
And periodically, you get attention to it uh, since then. You're going to find people that say that in Orthodoxy there's no holy war. And if you actually research in the languages, if you use, what is it called? Uh, Sacred War in Russian and Sacred War in Greek, you'll come across a whole bunch of stuff that
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
found out in researching it
Well,
uh, from the medieval period, where it was normal and everybody accepted it up to a certain point. That certain point was basically the church didn't accept the notion that people who were killed in battle automatically went to heaven. But other than that, the idea of the holy war was part of Orthodoxy.
yeah.
Um, this this thing about the restrainer, people have
O
different ideas.
katechon in
Well,
Greek. O katechon. Yeah.
uh, is a Greek word which it's referring to. um, the idea that uh, it's a necessity in the world for there to be a power, whether it's a person or an entity, which restrains against the devil and his machinations,
Right.
and that it's and what we're talking about generally is a monarchy or empire or something like that.
Sure.
One of the Romes, the old Rome, new Rome, third Rome, whatever. Uh, and so when you don't have any of that, then you have, well, the 20th century with the largest bloodfest that humanity's ever seen.
Right.
And that's why some Orthodox, I mean, I don't have any fixed opinion about exactly what it all means as far as the restrainer is concerned. But what I look at and I see that is that's not a coincidence that the uh, Russian Empire falls and then everything goes into satanic madness.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's a pattern that is biblical and it's right there in front of you, and it's too stark to deny, in my humble opinion.
Well, and I'll extend some grace as well to the Habsburgs and Hohenzollerns, the German Empire.
Hmm.
And I mean, a fun little fact: as long as Bismarck was alive, he 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 kept those three empires together, and they were together on almost everything. And it was called the Drei Kaiserbund, or the League of the Band of Three Emperors, Kaiser. That's how you say in in German. And as far as World War One, of course, he died before then. But he said, as far as the Balkans were concerned, he said the Balkans is not worth the blood of one Pomeranian grenadier. If there had been a Bismarck at the time, then this wouldn't have erupted into the Great War, as it was called back then. And the Pope Benedict XV, he was totally against it. And but the papacy had lost all power that it had during the Middle Ages, in which they did restrain wars. And you know, I mean, like William the Conqueror had to get permission from the Pope to go conquer England, and
Hmm.
that's because the King of England, Harold II Godwinson, was a an oath breaker. Okay,
I've heard that. I didn't know the
yeah,
details of that.
yeah.
I love
So
having you on the show, George. You're the historian that comes up with all this stuff. But
anyway, the thing is, now France had been a republic for a little over 100 years by then. Um, Republic, revived kingdom, republic, revived empire, republic, and so it was a highly secularized state, and they had the largest army in Europe. So they didn't answer to the Pope, and of course
mm,
neither did Great Britain,
mm,
but it's Protestant largely. So there was no restrainer there to slap these people in the face and say, what are you doing? You know?
mm,
Fun fact, the German ambassador um, in 1914 uh, took the train to St. Petersburg to deliver the declaration of war
mhm.
to the Tsar, and he went to the ministry of the defense minister, and and he broke down in tears. He knew this was a bad idea, and he knew that this was not going to end well, not merely for the millions of young men who died, but
Mm.
the millions of people who died afterwards. He didn't predict this because of the Spanish flu. More people
Yeah.
died because of the Spanish flu than in the trenches.
Yeah.
So, you know, um, eh, I don't know what
War
else to say
is
about
yeah, war's messy and it's very expensive in
that. Hmm.
various ways. Uh, People have really only come to be able to make it a overwhelmingly uh, beneficial, prosperous enterprise in the modern era. I
Yeah.
think since World War II, really have made it such that you can invest in military stocks
Hmm.
and you can do really. That's one of the problems we have in Russia right now that I think is affecting the judgment of the president is that he would like to end the war. He would like to do so decisively. He would like to go ahead and, you know, enter Kiev or whatever he has to do. But there are people, and it's not a socialized, totally socialized military industrial. There are people who, on the periphery of the military industrial complex in Russia, make money off of
Hmm.
the military oligarchs who do, and they're
Uh-huh.
making a lot of money off of this. Just like the military and military industrial complex people in
In the
America.
West. Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
so they're pressuring him to say, well, look, you know, how long do you think, you know, that kind of thing. How long do you think, you know, we can keep, uh, maybe, you know, if we could do it clean, so you press slowly and go up to the Dnieper, and we're not anxious to get to Kiev, and you know, I don't know. I myself, I'm starting to agree more with our friend Jen Jeffries that
Yeah.
that it needs to the hammer needs to drop and it needs to finish.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah,
Yeah. This, and the hammer needs to drop not only on Kiev, but on munitions factories in the West.
yeah.
And now that would be that's going up the escalatory ladder, but it's gonna wake up some people. I mean, it just is in the West.
Jatris, I forgot his name. Jatris, uh, Jim Jatris. Um, yeah, I think they're. I've predicted online in different places that the Russians are going to strike in Europe. Uh, I'm not sure where. It could be like Poland or Germany, or it could be like in the
Hmm.
UK or France. In these some of these factories that produce drones before the end of December. I think they're gonna. It's gonna be a conventional strike, and I think they would have tried to do it at some point towards the end of the war in order to punctuate the fact that they're done fighting, and that um, if you want to fight anymore, then it's going to be a different war.
Yeah,
Uh,
full mobilization.
yeah, full mobilization. Your cities are not safe. Your people are not safe. Your infrastructure is not safe. Uh, but they may have to go ahead and do it, and I think they may very well do it before the end of December, just because of the fact that um, the people who are telling the Ukrainians where to shoot are telling them to shoot inside Russia, and that's very bad advice. And the Ukrainians are too stupid and angry and full of hatred to think carefully about what they're being told to do.
Oh,
And a lot of it is Western people pushing the button on these things.
mhm,
I mean, a lot
mhm.
of the intelligence is they may be informing the Ukrainians of what they're doing, but that's about the extent of it. um,
Well,
it's
fast fact: in 1991, when Ukraine got its independence, the population I heard was 42 million or 80 million, or but in
less than 50.
2000 in 2010 the population was 42 million.
Uh-huh.
Now it's 19 million.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Um, those people better get their shit together and start thinking long term, because because the Ukrainian diaspora now probably exceeds what's inside Ukraine.
Yeah,
Okay, and
close to it. Yeah,
they're not going back.
right.
You know,
Yep.
and so
Yeah, I mean, what'll happen eventually, depending on who control. Well, there's no doubt who's going to control every inch of Ukraine at the end of this war. It doesn't mean that it will all be Russian sovereign territory, but it does mean that Russia will control every inch of
hmm
Ukraine. And when that happens, Russia will just restock it with its own people.
yeah, the I I don't know if you heard, but I was watching Redacted last week, and Colonel McGregor was on, and he said that just a day before there had been an assassination attempt against Zelensky,
Hmm,
and 7 men were executed. One of them, at least, was part of the intelligence service.
hmm.
So I don't know if you heard that or not.
I heard something about an assassination attempt, but I didn't hear uh, that there were 7 men involved that were part of the intelligence service. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I mean, Zelensky has to sleep with one eye open. Of course, he takes cocaine, so it's probably easy for him to do so. But
well, he spends an appreciable amount of time outside the country as well. He likes
yeah,
to, like he's been part of this European summit that's been happening over
I'm
the last
I'm curious as to where his wife and 3 children are. I have a feeling that they're in Miami.
Miami or Poland. Uh, I would say, uh, except for special appearances. I mean, that's that's the safest place for him.
I mean, if I were Zelensky, I'd get him the hell out.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
just because Russia's been tame
mhm.
about the whole thing so far doesn't mean they will be tomorrow. Uh, I'd have him in Miami. Yeah, if I wanted him to live, I'd have him in Miami. Uh,
Well, he owns a mansion there,
yeah, he
and
owns a
and he also owns a house
the yeah,
in Tuscany.
yeah, yeah. He owns some property in France too. He
I didn't know
owns,
that.
yeah, he owns a lot of this money that's come through Congress. Consider, I mean, when it comes in, when the bails come in to the presidential palace, the biggest cut goes to him and then to the head of the Secret Service.
Right.
And then everybody else divides up, and then whatever's left, goes to
I
whoever to
I
keep the
uh,
war going.
I
That
am convinced that at least 25 to 30%, a third, goes right back to line the pockets of Americans.
Yeah, yeah, the kickbacks.
Yeah, the kickbacks.
That's
I'm
true. And
convinced
then
of
all
that.
these weapons appear in Mexico,
Uh,
throughout Latin America, and in other places
uh,
that are the ones that we've been sending over to Ukraine, and they turn up in Albanian hands,
yeah,
in
yeah.
Croatian hands. I mean,
You know, along those lines, I remember back in 2022 when this started in April, the Kiev regime unloaded a whole bunch of M16s on the general population. They just said, "Here, literally hundreds of thousands of machine guns or automatic rifles were given to ordinary people."
yeah.
Now, that's what we were told. I'm going
Mm.
to go with that. Question is, let's go with that. How come Joe Slovo, Ukraine guy, isn't using these guns to fight the Russians? You know, I'm just
Or
curious.
yeah, or to fight off the press gangs
Yeah,
that are coming after him to try to get him to fight the Russians.
yeah. I mean, I have a feeling that a lot of these Ukrainians who were given these civilians who are given the AR-15s are just, it's like mine is sitting in my closet, It's,
No,
you
they
know
sell them. I'm sure they sell them. I mean, it's one of the most
Oh, yeah,
affordable.
well, and they sold them too, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But
I'm
but 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 what I'm trying to say, the bigger picture here is maybe they don't wanna fight the Russians.
yeah. I don't think anybody wanted to fight the Russians because the people who were brainwashed into wanting to fight the Russians by
Well,
the
yeah,
American
like the Azov
yeah.
Azov
It's also
battalions,
the
Pravi Sector, these neo-pagans, yeah, sure,
the
they
ones
do, but they're
yeah.
only a minority.
Those are holdovers from the end of World War II
Mhm,
and the operations that we had, Claudius, and the
mhm,
operations that we had going on there. And
mhm,
then we, we started really messing with their minds after the end of the Cold War, and it got up to speed right before the Maidan, and you had enough people who were brainwashed in order to make a successful coup d'état
mhm,
there, and so you have all this awful hatred, in
mhm,
Ukraine for people who were indistinguishable from Russians
yeah,
generation before,
yeah,
totally indistinguishable from Russians.
mhm,
I went to at the Greek church where I used to go. There's a lady who was she said she was Ukrainian. She was Russian, really, and her father was had been in the Red Army, and he was stationed in Western Ukraine, and that's how the family ended up in Western Ukraine. And she told the story of how she was a university professor, and they came in one Friday afternoon, and all the classes were taught in Russian. And they came in one Friday afternoon and said that all the classes would be taught in Ukrainian starting on Monday.
yeah,
And none of these people spoke Ukrainian. Not only did the professors not, uh, a lot of them not speak Ukrainian, but a lot of the students didn't understand Ukrainian.
right,
And so,
right,
this cottage industry sprung up all around for the Ukrainian classes, and they ended up compromising. And the Syrzhyk is a like a Pig Latin, Pig Ukrainian
mhm,
dialect, and then there's like what you can do is take Russian and change the case endings and mess with it so it sounds like Ukrainian, but it's not really Ukrainian. That
right,
you're still using the Russian vocabulary, and
right,
they screw around with it, and so gradually they would drift into Ukrainian over months
mhm,
or years or whatever. But it was just a damn mess made by the State Department and the CIA, uh, and so it's all what we're seeing now. This reach out and screw around with everybody it's reminiscent of Rome. It's what how the Romans went down. This is how the West is going down. Um, in my humble opinion, the uh, the religion of the West is liberalism, and it's fading, and it has tentacles every place.
mhm,
Or 800 military bases around the world, and it wants to hold on to all this power that it's had. But the ideology, it's a dying religion, and other faiths are starting to arise stronger, um, especially in Russia, the Russian Orthodox faith, or Orthodox faith, just
mhm.
is that a qualifier? Just Orthodox
Yeah,
faith.
I I don't believe in the qualifier. I don't even like the word Eastern Orthodox.
Yeah,
Chris
yeah, Orthodox
Christianity
Christian. Yeah,
Christianity began in the East.
yeah,
If you're Catholic, if you're Protestant, you're Eastern. Okay, that's where it started. Now you
yeah,
may live
yeah,
in the West as
yeah.
you and I do, but there's nothing Eastern about Eastern Orthodoxy any more than there's anything Eastern about Catholicism or whatever. These are just monikers that we
Historians
we
came up with over the ages.
Yeah,
usually
yeah,
influenced by whatever prejudice they had at the time, whatever
yeah,
society. Yeah. Like Byzantine.
yeah,
Well, the name of the city was Byzantium before, I think,
yeah,
but that didn't have anything to do with, I mean,
yeah.
Constantinople and the Roman
The
Empire. There's nothing Byzantine about it after, certain
the
point.
people who lived in the Eastern Roman Empire, whether they were Greek or Armenian or any branch of Anatolian or whatever, Syrian, they call themselves Romans.
Yeah, Ramai. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that was yeah. Um, Along those lines, you know, I've I'm cautiously optimistic because I want to tie into the spiritual aspect of this too.
Hmm.
Um, you know, it's it's ironic, but every nation that was part of the Warsaw Pact is now part of NATO. Ukraine accepted. Okay,
Okay.
and so the and that includes the Orthodox nations, Greece, which always was part of NATO, Bulgaria now, Romania now, um,
Mhm.
soon to be Serbia mainly, maybe. I know
Maybe
it's not yet.
we'll
Yeah,
see. Yeah.
yeah. We'll see. But each of those countries has a patriarch, okay, and they're
Mhm.
Orthodox churches, and the irony is that they've all been aligned against, as part of NATO now against Russia,
Mhm.
and of course now now, now follow me here because this is very subtle. The the patriarch of NATO, shall we say, for want of a better word, is Bartholomew. Okay.
Okay. Can I use
So
that? That's good. I like that.
yeah, yeah. And so his grand plan, or I should say, the State Department's grand plan, is to use all these other Orthodox nations against the biggest Orthodox nation.
Mhm.
Okay, hold that thought. Now, it looked like it was going that way, but the Serbs aren't buying into it. The
Mhm.
Georgians are not buying into it.
Mhm.
And now we know that Patriarch Daniel of Sophia
Mhm.
basically told Bartholomew to go pound sand.
I saw that.
Um, am I being naive or foolishly optimistic to think that the fissure that this block that was being created in the West is now showing signs of fracture, fissures, so to speak, and that their their grand Orthodox coalition against evil Putin is uh, is coming to naught. Now that doesn't mean that there won't be a false flag, and that eventually all the European nations, all of NATO, will go against Russia, mobilize, you know, go Operation Barbarossa against Russia. Uh, they could do that if that's a way to stop and now I'm going farther beyond the Orthodox thing. They could do that if they feel that this is what's going to be necessary for them to hold their countries together because their countries are individually fracturing apart. England, especially, France, especially, and I'd say
Mhm.
Germany. And those are the big three.
Mhm.
I mean, 25 years ago, there were half a, maybe a half a, maybe 5 million Muslims living in Europe. And a lot of them
Mhm.
were Bosniaks, let's say.
Yeah.
Now there's 50 million.
Yeah. That's well, we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get
Yeah. That's a
yeah,
whole nother war. That's a whole
yeah.
nother war.
That's a
Yeah.
whole other ball of wax. I agree. But the thing I'm trying to say is that And Bartholomew is still saying, come on, the 11 other churches, you got to get on board. We got 4 churches that are on board with the OCU. Me, Greece, Alexandria, Cyprus.
Cyprus, yeah, the Greek churches, yeah,
Yeah.
basically.
The Hellenophone speaking churches, the Greek speaking churches. Well, maybe, it seems like these 11 other churches are just not going along with it. And I am convinced that they're NATO overlords,
Hmm.
whether it's the president of Bulgaria, the president of Romania, the president of uh, Serbia, whatever, saying to their churches, you've got to do this. You've got to do this. So far, these other churches are not. They're standing up to their direct overlords and to the ultimate overlords, which is NATO. That's what I see.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they'd all be going. I mean, I'm talking about the Czechoslovak church. I'm talking about Albania. I'm talking about Poland, the Orthodox Church there. I'm talking about even the Baltic churches. Um,
Hmm.
of the 14 autocephalous churches, 15 if you count the SCA, which I do, but let's for not say of the 14, 11 are not going along with Bartholomew's grand plans.
There.
So there's some hope here.
Uh, it, you, this is one of the places where you most clearly see that this is a struggle of light versus darkness.
Mm-hmm.
Because what Bartholomew is asking them to do is uncanonical and unholy,
Yes.
essentially. You're supposed to be recognizing an entity that is not, uh, first of all, uh, you're poaching on another canonical Orthodox church's
Mm-hmm.
canonical territory, and you're doing so with people who are not validly ordained,
Oh yeah, they're,
and
they're
you're
charlatans.
doing it willfully, and you're doing it in a sense. Well, there's simony probably involved, and also you're doing it for political purposes in order to wage war against Russia
Mm-hmm.
in this Ukrainian endeavor. So it's the worst of all possible motives. And then on the other side, so you have these 4, the Greek patriarchates, or these 4 that are willing to go, the 3 that are willing to go along with it. 4, I guess. Um, but the rest of them, the 11, they're saying something interesting. They refuse to recognize the OCU, but they remain in communion with Bartholomew and Constantinople.
Yeah, but
Refusing
that can change.
that
That
can
can
change.
change.
That can
Right.
change. And so normally, what you would do is what Russia did. They'd have to break communion with them, because if you enter commune with schismatics, then you step into the shoes of schismatics. That's canon law.
Mm.
Um, but they're retaining intercommunion with Constantinople. They're just refusing to recognize the canonical nature of the OCU.
Sure.
That's the thought that they're kind of throwing to NATO to try to. This is as far as we can go. We're not going to go any further, so you just have to
Mm-hmm.
live with it. I'm sure they're getting a lot of pressure, just like you're saying, though.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That seems to be the compromise that they have come up with.
Right. And the minute Bartholomew steps on their territory and takes away a diocese from them, then they'll break communion too. I mean,
Oh
you know,
yeah, I mean the reason I'm not saying that just because I would like it to be so. I'm saying that because I have read and seen what the Serbians have said in response to Constantinople, and they basically they've said um, it is only through extreme economia that we remain in communion
right,
with
right.
with Constantinople.
Yeah.
And I think they're not the only ones who believe that. And so, Bartholomew's taking the wrong side of this war of light and darkness.
Oh yeah.
Um, he's, I mean, if you're trapped by the devil early on, you're not going to get away
Yeah.
unless there's some major self-sacrificing event that
Right.
engage in that you might not survive.
Right.
Uh,
I mean, someday we're just going to have to do an episode just on Patriarch Bartholomew. You know, his his legacy, so to speak. And but the thing is, you can't. It's so obvious now, and it's become even more obvious now that Leo is Pope, that the winds of change in the wrong direction are blowing in the wrong direction. Um, I mean, we could talk about the SSPX, but the one thing that I'm getting out of this is that okay, the Pope has the right to excommunicate him. They should have gotten the mandate from the Pope to ordain these 4 bishops. They didn't. I get it. But why isn't the Pope being as vocal against the Chinese Catholic Church? Because the Chinese Communist Party, they gave the Pope, they gave Francis $2 billion and said, bye. We choose the bishops. Okay. And and then there's the German Synod, which basically now is completely on board with the Skittles agenda.
oh yeah,
Why
that
isn't
is
he going after them? Why is he going after the trads? Okay. Now, it doesn't matter. It's what he wants to do. Um, there's a photo that showed up, and I'll try to send it to you, of him as a younger man doing taking part of a Pachamama ritual.
I saw that. Yeah,
Okay, you saw that. Um, the point I'm trying to make is that Francis was a disaster, a public relations disaster. Leo is continuing that disaster, but he's putting a smiley face on it.
hmm
Okay. And you know, again, I thank God I'm not Catholic. I have no qualms about the Catholics. I love my Catholic brothers and sisters. But at this point, it's times like these, I'm glad I'm not a Catholic, because these trads, the trad cats or the rad trads, they're just holding on to the hope that this is all going to end someday soon
yeah,
with the next pope.
right.
The point I'm trying to make is they're deluded. It's not going to end. It's just going to keep on going the way that the Protestant confessions have gone. Protestant confessions are gone. Okay.
Oh, yeah,
Um, you know, but Bartholomew feels that he can still hitch his wagon to the Western Star,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that includes homosexuality.
yeah. It's the strangest thing I've ever seen because
Yeah.
it's completely captured by the devil.
Hmm.
Completely captured by the devil. I mean,
Hmm.
obviously the gates of hell have prevailed against the Roman Catholic Church.
Hmm.
Anybody, could see it from a mile away. The current pope and the last pope were liberals. That's their
Hmm.
religion. It's
Hmm.
not the old Catholic faith
Uh-uh.
that people, though that was heterodox, that even that was not their faith. Their faith is liberalism.
Hmm.
And that is just the modern liberal philosophy with bells and whistles and whatever else,
Hmm.
uh, it's palace and censors and stuff spread over top of it to make it look like it has something to do with tradition, which it doesn't.
Hmm.
That's all they are. That's all they. That's all they've been. Their whole lives probably. I don't want to go back into your history or anything like that.
Yeah, we don't want to
Um,
do that. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
Time, time,
But that's what
time.
they had in their whole entire his entire papacy and uh, Francis's entire papacy. That's all they've been. It's just
Hmm.
it was pure liberalism with a veneer of apparent liberal Catholicism.
Hmm.
And that's all you're going to say though. Bartholomew, uh, he's I guess the best you can say is Orthodox right. I mean, it's
Hmm.
his religion really is also actually. I don't know whether he has any convictions or not.
You
Other
know,
than, other than ego and Hellenism. Other than ego and Hellenism, I don't know that, but he realizes that liberalism is the way the wind has blown for most of his life, and that's where his meals are coming from.
yeah.
And so he's inclined to do that, and with a thin, thin, thin veneer
Mhm.
of Byzantine, you know, uh, a strata Byzantine appearance over top of it. And so they all belong together.
Yeah.
They're just in the wrong communions. You know, they all belong together. He belongs as the Pope of the Byzantine Catholics. That's where he belongs. Uh, and they're all liberals, and so be it. Who gives a you know? I mean, that's my attitude towards it. Now, I think it's
Well,
bad. I think it's forced a lot of Greeks to look in the mirror and decide, who am I really? Who am I? What do I?
if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, flies like a duck, it's a duck. I mean,
Yeah,
you don't have to
yeah,
be a rocket scientist to see. Uh, and I'll never forget last year, Patriarch Bartholomew had a photo op with a, a Greek liberal named Kasalakis. I can't remember his first name, but he's a open homosexual in a homosexual so-called marriage with some American guy named Chandler or whatever, you know,
yeah.
and he he had a photo op with Bartholomew. Well, you know, that's usually when you have a photo op like that, that
Mhm.
kind of tells you that he agrees with Kasalakis and his agenda. And he was supposed to be the prime minister of Greece, but he he didn't win. Mitsotakis won instead. Now that's a whole other thing about Mitsotakis, the so-called conservative, but we don't want to get into that. But the the point is, Mitsotakis pushed through gay marriage in Greece,
Yeah.
uh, and he's not gay, but obviously he's taken his marching orders from the State Department and he's executed them.
Yeah.
Uh, Interestingly enough, the Church of Greece, and this was about 2 years ago, maybe three, voted unanimously against gay marriage.
Yeah.
They did, to a man, all 77 bishops of the Church of Greece. And it wasn't even it was a no-brainer.
Mhm.
Interestingly enough, the Communist Party of Greece, they have 40 delegates in the Vuli, or the parliament. They voted unanimously against gay marriage. Anyway, the point is, the winds of change are going towards the Skittles agenda in the West, at least ecclesiastically, and Bartholomew is going along with them.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether that has upset his grand plans to be the patriarch of NATO and to, get all the primates of the Orthodox churches, the local churches, the other 11 churches to go along with him. But so far, it hasn't worked.
Yeah. Um, well, it's probably a good idea to take a step back and look at the actual conflicts we had, because
Yeah.
it means that we're looking at. NATO and the Pope of NATO. I've got to remember that. That's a good,
Yeah.
yeah. But and that's what it really is. I mean, this is NATO versus Russia war in
Hmm.
Ukraine, and then this thing in Iran is a little bit different.
Yeah.
It's the United States and Israel in a war against Iran, and there's this amorphous thing called the resistance. Some people call it the axis of resistance,
Hmm.
which is those countries that are allied or forces that are allied with Iran against
Hmm.
Israel. I believed from early on that the idea behind this whole conflict was to take Israel out. Um, that,
It sure looks that way, doesn't it?
yeah, I mean, I
I
don't
mean, it.
know whether Iran told Hamas to pull the trigger on October 7th, 2023. I know that they were informed about it, but everything that happened thereafter looked like it was all orchestrated to put
Mhm.
maximum pressure on Israel. And everything since then has looked like it's calculated to put
Mhm.
maximum pressure on Israel. And it's kind of like, who's that guy, Nixon, Donald Nixon? I used to watch him all the time, seen him for a long time. But his bright idea, and I think he was right to come up with it. Uh, it didn't take rocket scientists, though. You can make a place uninhabitable
Mhm.
if there's if there's so much stuff going on that you uh, can't keep children safe. You can't walk down the street without
Mhm.
there being walking past debris. If it all looks like the Balkans all the time, and you happen to
Uh-huh.
be Jewish and you're not used to that kind of thing,
Mhm.
then you may just think that you need to get on a plane and go to Europe or to the United States or to um, the Jewish Autonomous Republic in Russia or someplace
Mhm.
else. Else is the operative word,
Mm.
not there. Um,
Yeah, well, I mean, in Greece and Cyprus, real estate prices have risen so much because Israeli Jews are just leaving and Israel and buying up real estate everywhere in Greece and in Cyprus. Um, sp- um, Speaking of Iran, uh, I want to back up to one thing. 10 days before Hamas did their October 7th surprise, um, the Egyptian intelligence people told the Israelis something's going to happen.
mhm.
That tells me that either the Israelis were nonchalant, said, "Nah, nah, 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 it's not," or they allowed it to happen so that they could finally get what they want, which is the extermination of the Gazans, the the continued ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians from the occupied territories, and to control Gaza itself and all the billions of metric tons of liquid natural gas, which is right off the coast of Gaza.
Yeah. I'll
Okay.
take what's behind door number two, George.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's-
Door number two. And so they're 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 accomplishing that, but at great cost to the Israeli state itself.
Mhm.
And and uh, Israel's stock has fallen so far in the world. I mean, it's a pariah state, and the whole idea of Israel, the official story was that this is to be a safe spot for Jews throughout the world, that they could
Mhm.
come and right of return and just be safe from
Mhm.
anti-Semitism in France, England, United States, wherever.
Right, yeah.
y- Anti-Semitism perceived or real, I should say. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's not working because now anti-Semitism is
Yeah,
rising everywhere. And
yeah,
I don't even like the word anti-Semitism. It means nothing really anymore. Um, I mean, mm, right now, you and I could be called anti-Semites simply for critiquing the uh, the Netanyahu government. Okay, I
yeah,
prefer the word Jew hatred. That's the
yeah.
word I prefer. Okay, well, I'm not that, and
Mm,
you're not that. Okay,
mhm,
and I don't. I'm sure there are people out there in the alt right who truly hate Jews. I get that they exist.
mhm.
Okay, I'm not naive, but the vast majority of people who are being accused of being so-called anti-Semites are not.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, when you keep on, you know, throw, you know, push, pushing that term down the throat of well-meaning people, they will be anti-Semites.
Right.
You know, and and uh, and for those who say, well, look, there's a lot of Jews who are not on board, like Glenn Greenwald and Max Blumenthal and Norman Finkelstein, and you just go on down the line. Then the ready-made uh, accusation against them is that, well, they're self-hating Jews. Okay,
Yeah, that's what their own people will tell them. Yeah.
yeah. That just shows that they've lost the script,
Mm.
in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Mhm.
Um, the thing about Iran and Israel, I wondered if it was going to hold this last thing with the
Yeah, I was hoping
memorandum
it would.
of understanding. And it doesn't look like that Israel's going to let uh, Trump walk away from this. Um, the longer that the United States is in conflict with Iran, the more likely it is that Israel doesn't survive, in my humble
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah,
Uh, so I'm mixed. I don't want American soldiers to be
no,
killed in any of this stuff. I
no,
don't want them to be on the ground, boots on the ground, God forbid. But at the same time, uh, and we don't get a lot of hate, man. We don't get a lot of mail. But the world could do with. I mean, I'm not going to say the world could do without Jews, but the world could do without Israel.
yeah. Well,
It's dragged us into too many wars,
yeah,
and hundreds of thousands of people have been killed uh, for no reason other than just hubris, Greta. Just
right.
hubris.
Truman didn't really want to recognize Israel.
Yeah,
He really didn't. There had been two assassination attempts against him. There were letter bombs that were sent to the White House
yeah.
from the Irgun or some Jewish aligned terrorist organization to put the fear of God into him, and
Mm,
uh, he still didn't want to do it. George Marshall, who was his Secretary of State, and before that was the top military dog during World War II. Everybody answered to him, even Eisenhower and Nimitz.
mm,
Begged Truman to
mm,
not recognize Israel,
mm.
and he didn't do it because he was anti-Semite. No, he just knew that being a soldier, that this is going to unleash decades of war,
Mm.
and it did.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the other thing it's doing, I mean, looking at it as a whole, kind of the holistic view of the entire multifaceted conflict that we find ourselves looking at. This is really propping Iran up to be the hegemon in the Middle East,
Yeah.
and like the third partner in this
Hmm.
Eurasian alliance between Russia, China, and Iran. And the thing that really stands out to me about the whole thing is China has the best deal of everybody because they haven't had to lift a finger
Sure.
militarily to do anything. they're
Yeah.
they're the wise ones, you know.
Yeah.
They're sitting
Oh,
back
yeah.
and they're just watching everybody else, you know.
I
What
I
can
I don't know if you heard this, but Trump was an anchor for the NATO summit, and he told Erdogan, "I like you. I'm going to lift the sanctions against you because in 2019, I think Turkey bought the Russian S-400 anti
yeah, yeah.
thing,
Enemies, yeah.
which is probably the best in the world." And Trump just lifted it. He said, "No, I like you." And this obviously rattled NATO, but it really rattled the Israelis
Oh yeah, yeah. I heard that. Yeah.
because the Israelis have their mindset on Turkey being their next conquest.
They don't like this stuff about F-35s either.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. And Trump said, "I'll sell you the F-35s."
Yeah.
So you know, Trump is a master of chaos.
Yeah. I mean, anybody who looks at the map and what's happening. The thing that should really concern, and I'm sure really did concern Israelis, Israeli Jews anyway, uh, was when several times that Iran was given in the pounding of their lives when
Hmm.
they they, they were getting beaten worse than they'd ever been beat by anybody in their
Yeah.
entire history. And the fact that they had to have known that Iran was holding back and could have done
Oh yeah.
10, 20 times worse. And at that moment, that's probably, well, people had probably had the intelligence to know that that's what happened before then, and that's why all the stuff in Argentina and Cyprus and
Yeah. Yeah.
had been developing for all that time. But that's part of it. I mean, I don't think people really understand, and that's one of the reasons that I wanted to move uh, this program into war mode
Hmm.
because the world is transforming
Yeah.
in a way that I think most people in the West are totally ignorant of, or
Oh yeah.
largely ignorant of.
Oh yeah.
There's a power that is forming in the East, the Eurasian kind of alliance, and it is not a conquering power in the sense that it's going to take up a whole lot of territory by force of arms, but it is a conquering power in the sense that it's going to become the center of uh, military and economic power
Hmm.
during this century, the rest of the century, and to a large extent, it already has. But the economic is coming slower than the military.
Yeah.
People can
Right.
already so. Well, do you think that covers it for this week? Okay. All right. Well, if you enjoyed what you saw here, then hit like and subscribe, and we will see you next time on Hegemonix Warfront.